There's no magic button or no magic solution for operation. It's an everyday thing, but you need to win the hearts and minds of the folks in the clinics. Our focus as a DSO is to create those opportunities, create that training, and then remove the toil of things that are not helpful for them to deliver care. I think dentistry has so much to offer as it relates to primary care or the services that are undervalued in my view, or sometimes understood. So what I found here at 123 Dentist is a culture that is very similar in terms of its thirst for knowledge. People are excited to be able to find the best way to do something.
Yeah, at the top of the conversation, you mentioned culture when we were talking about the gala, and then you've just mentioned it again in regards to culture of continuous learning and wanting to win and be successful. From your perspective, what is culture and why does it matter?
So culture is.
Welcome back to the Dental Economist Show. I'm your host, Mike Huffaker. Before we dive into today's conversation, just a quick reminder as always, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to like, subscribe, or even more helpful, leave a review. Your support really helps us continue to bring valuable insights to dental professionals everywhere. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Jeff Legere, the Chief Executive Officer of 123 Dentist. Before stepping into the dental space, Jeff spent nearly 2 decades at Shoppers Drug Mart, serving as president and overseeing more than 1,300 locations and 50,000 employees. His leadership helped shape one of the country's most trusted healthcare retail brands. Now, at 123 Dentist, Jeff is bringing that expertise into dentistry, leading one of Canada's largest dental service organizations into its next chapter of national growth and operational excellence. Jeff, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How's everything going?
It's great, Mike. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. To start, I just wanted to say I saw some of the clips and the videos of the national event you guys had and the celebration. I think it was kind of a year end, and I had some serious FOMO. It looks like you guys really know how to put on an event and throw a party.
Yeah, the galas were there's one in Montreal and there's also one in Vancouver. And this was my first 6 months in the role, so I had never been to one of these events, and it was pretty powerful. And bringing all the clinic teams together and an opportunity to kind of celebrate all of their hard work and also get a chance to meet a lot of new people. So it was a lot of fun. Big part of our culture is to have
Yeah.
these galas, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is it clinical teams from across the organization are invited to join? Who's the audience and the participants?
Yeah, the audience, or the participants are the clinics themselves, so teams, so dentist partner, hygienists, CVAs, admins. So usually, not call it 90 to 100% of the employees of each location, come and have a chance to have some fun together outside of the work environment.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, look, after nearly 2 decades in the pharmacy sector, you made the decision to kind of close that chapter and move into dentistry. I'd be curious, from your perspective, what signaled to you that it was time for a new challenge, and maybe what specifically about dentistry has captured your interest?
Sure. I'm a pharmacist by training, so which is why I was at Shoppers Drug Mart for almost 20 years. Ended up leading it for the last 7.5 years. So I really love that interaction between patient care and health services delivery in the community and growing a business. And so I had a really great experience there. So I've always been attracted to those intersects, and dentistry in Canada is also a very good example of that, where you have private pay, it's a service that's embedded in the community. Of course, dentistry is different than pharmacy, but there's a lot more similarities than you'd think in terms of how the teams work together, how we need to engage patients, and how we need to think about operations.
Yeah, so you kind of answered a little bit of this, but when when you're looking now at dentistry compared to pharmacy, like what parallels, what sort of structural similarities do you see that maybe have made this transition feel familiar? And then what are some of the major differences that you're kind of looking at as opportunities to do things differently?
hmm So I knew about dentistry. I have a number of friends that are dentists, but also when I was at Shoppers, we looked at other healthcare providers, and In a couple of years before I left, we acquired a rehab provider, so physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and trying to think about things that are connected to primary care, which is where pharmacists are going in Canada to be more primary care providers as opposed to just dispensers of medication and injectors of vaccines. So when I was looking at the broader kind of health ecosystem in Canada, I spent quite a bit of time with dentistry too, and learned a lot from the two major DSOs here, and had a chance to meet both folks, including meeting Dr. Minshivji, who is the founder. And what I found that was very similar was just the first and foremost the dedication to providing great patient care, um, thoughts around helping treat or prevent issues, in this case, oral health issues that may lead to or whole body health issues over time. So that link of prevention, treatment, diagnosis, there's a lot of similarities with where pharmacy was going, and accelerating in quite a quick speed. Some of the things that make it easier to deliver care in pharmacy are also things that are important to dental clinics, like efficient booking, scheduling, blend of services, patient engagement, and how do you do this in a thoughtful way? And then for clinicians, how do you help them practice to the top of their scope through training, through mentorship? And so there's a lot of similarities, I think, with where pharmacy was going and actually where dentistry is also going or needs to go. So that was really, I think, really important. There's some obvious differences. Drugstores, half the business that I was running was front of shop items like in beauty, whereas pharmacy, whereas dental obviously is largely the clinical based services that you have. And just the manual or the technical components of dentistry is very different too, than pharmacy, but a lot more similarities than I originally would have thought, and I've certainly had an opportunity to see that over the first almost 6 months. I've been to over 100 clinics, which is really a
Oh,
good swath of
yeah.
yeah, we're about 400 almost 470 locations by the end of
That's
this
fantastic.
calendar year. Yeah, so it's been good.
That's a lot of visits.
It's yeah, it is. It's been fun though. I really in my previous role, I got to spend a lot of time in stores meeting the frontline teams just to understand what can we do to make your lives better? How do we help you uh, uh, treat people to the best or the highest standards possible? What training do you need? What are the things that you're doing that are actually just getting in the way to delivering great care? So visiting all these clinics uh, really gave me a good feel and a quick, rapid education on the art of dentistry, not just the science too.
Yeah, what an incredible way to start. I think that there are so many leaders that miss that element when they start a new role in this space where that maybe instinct for folks is to start leading through spreadsheets and P&Ls and understanding the numbers, the data without actually having the conversations with the folks at the front line. What are some of the things that you hear and that you've heard over the past 7 months that maybe shaped the way that you're looking at things a little bit differently than you expected?
Yeah, so through those 100 or so clinics and with those teams, I've seen very, very efficient clinics that are very that have figured out how to make sure that there's nothing in their way to deliver care. So we can learn from those in terms of how we would take those concepts and spread them across the whole network. So to get some scale advantages, and to help some folks that maybe don't have those tips and tricks about how to go about it. So that variability has been interesting to me, and those are things that we can help create systems and process to make it a bit more standardized in a good way to be able to deliver care. I've seen interesting uses of the some folks are a bit more cutting edge in terms of what technology they're using, how they're going about it. So those are also great ways for us to see how do we take these processes or technology and scale it for people? So that's the advantage of being part of a DSO is you have somebody that's there along for the ride with you and can really give you the best practices and the insights about how to do it, yeah, in that way. Um, the other interesting thing is really the need for mentorship and and especially from a general practice point of view, especially new grads. So people coming into the profession and wanting to have that mentor be there to help give them a little bit of extra security or mentorship or confidence. And people get that. I think all of us early in our careers, have had mentors, and that really makes a big difference, in particular in clinical services like this.
I really like the framing that you had just a few minutes ago, where you talked about on the clinical side, helping the doctors practice at the top of their scope. I think that's a really great way of thinking about it. And you mentioned through mentorship and through education. There's a lot of talk in DSOs, and it happens a lot in the States where there is the desire for clinical autonomy. And of course, the DSO is supposed to help support clinicians making the best choices that they can make for their patients. But within that statement, there is absolutely an ability to help people level up within their trade and their craft and to understand and learn what the new things are that are available to them. How do you balance the seeking clinical autonomy within kind of the organization and the perspective that doctors have with wanting to help push and grow inside an organization as well?
That's a great question. So the one area that we're focused in on right now is to make mentorship and helping folks, I think practice to the highest standards possible is by adding what we're calling a regional doctor mentor. I think there's a number of DSOs that have this in the U.S., including Heartland. So the example there is to have peer-to-peer training or peer-to-peer ability to kind of talk about clinical cases. Or talking about how do I move to the next level. So using that type of structure where it's clinician to clinician about standards of practice, I think is a really good way of going about it. And we had something similar to that when I was at Shoppers Drug Mart. We're also looking at adding a dental advisory council. So we're just in the process of setting that up. So that would be a number of clinicians that are experts in their field and a few folks, so across hygiene, across dentals, obviously dentists, and then also academics and folks that were in regulatory authorities to really kind of give a good balance of looking at how do standards get created, how do we go about helping elevate that. And I think that for me is a great safeguard to make sure that you're maintaining that independence and autonomy. And our focus as a DSO is to create those opportunities, create that training, and then help support folks lean into that, and then remove the toil of things that are not helpful for them to deliver care. So,
By all accounts, 123 Dentist has been growing very, very quickly, and you guys are a very successful organization. When you look at kind of heading into 2026, um, what do you view as the constraints for growth? In the US, there's a lot of talk about RCM and managing that process, and I understand that in Canada, that is not something that ends up being a top priority due to the payer system and the government element of insurance. And so, when you're looking at things, is it capacity? Is it bandwidth? Is it staffing? Like, how or where do you see the largest constraints to continued growth taking place?
right. I think getting to a standardized approach around the technical things or the administrative functions around dentistry is important. So we're going to focus in on that to remove those things that could be causing extra burden for clinicians and delivering patient care. Um, you're right. We don't have the same payer issues or complexity, and we're thankful for that. That's that's an incredibly,
It's
it's an
definitely a plus
incredibly,
for
yeah,
sure.
it's definitely a plus. So that's good. So, but we still have the opportunity to hire more clinicians. So generally things seem to be getting a little bit better as it relates to recruitment. We still have issues in rural areas, but we're actually having some success in terms of recruitment around dentists or associates, and also around hygiene. So areas obviously are still difficult, especially in rural areas. But so our team though is really focused on telling our story and telling them why it's different at 123, and how you can support your profession that way. And then I would say the other one is retaining folks. So we have been doing a really great job of trying to keep people in the network, and giving them the right conditions to be able to do that. Maybe the other area to kind of that we need to keep focusing on is how do we elevate people to the top of their practice? How do we help them move on to do more procedures if they're interested, obviously, and feel comfortable. So that going back to that mentorship and area like that. So um, I don't really see a significant barrier to our growth. I think our same office growth is going to continue to perform. We've seen it move up in the last 3 months in a concerted effort where we're focused on just some fundamentals around scheduling and things like that, and it's improved. Obviously next year we're going to continue that path, but also then start to layer in more mentorship, more thoughtful scheduling as it relates to procedures, and they're just training for clinicians to make sure that they're continuing to feel that they're well supported in doing the care that they want to do for patients.
Yeah. One of the challenges I see a lot of DSOs in the States facing right now is um, putting in place operational excellence across their organization. There's a multitude of systems, there's many different ways of doing things. It becomes hard to put into place standard operating procedures. There's data challenges, and the ones, and you mentioned Heartland, they do an amazing job of this with standardization across at scale, with a very, very diligent and robust kind of operational plan that they look to execute. How do you think about the opportunity that is lies before you from an operational excellence perspective, and what are the things there that you really think you have an opportunity to focus on?
So, certainly from a system point of view, is making sure that the system is operating in an integrated way, whether it's the practice management system, scheduling, recall, all these things that are optimized. I think that you can get a lot of data around this to cause some continuous improvement, and so we're gonna do that and focus in on that side of things. Um, Training our office managers and the admin staff and the CDAs to really kind of operate as a team, and provide leadership to the overall group. So that is going to obviously take a bit more time as you kind of go through and upgrade people's skills, but I have confidence in the folks that I met that a lot of them have a deep thirst for knowledge and a deep thirst for doing things as efficiently as possible. So a bit of systems. There are best practices that exist already in clinics. So how do we take those and actually amplify them? A lot of the things that we did at Shoppers actually didn't come from the central office. They actually came from the stores. They came from people that are actually practicing out there. And when you think about a business problem, we often would go back and say, "Well, how is?" We know Mike yourself is you're a great clinic manager, a great store manager. What is Mike doing? Like, is there something there that we can learn and that we can actually amplify and adjust? And often that was the case. I'd say over 90% of the methodologies that we found came from really high performing clinics. And I've seen that already across the 100 or so locations. So working with them and just, I think, methodically going about those changes, explaining the why, giving quick wins to the team so that we're removing toil and removing areas they're getting in their way. So those are some of the areas that we're going to focus in on. And we'll be adding a few folks that have come from outside that are a bit more at scale operators, just to kind of blend that out with the great dentistry and dental experience that we have in our network. So that combination, I think, should give us a good shot at doing it. And there's no magic button or no magic
Right.
solution for operations. It's an everyday thing. but you need to win the hearts and minds of the folks in the clinics and listen and learn from them too when you go about this. But I have great confidence that we can continue to see some improvements, and even in the I've been here less than 6 months, but the last 3 months, some of the things that we put in place is already starting to make a difference. So they were relatively small things.
Now you've mentioned patient experience and patient engagement. And I know when you were at Shoppers, you oversaw kind of a redoing of the entire digital ecosystem there, implementing apps and digital tools that really kind of transformed pharmacy from just a transactional touch point to this always on relationship. How do you think about those opportunities in dental, and where do you think the gaps exist today in creating those connections with the patients?
Yeah, we did have some really good success with creating an engagement platform that allowed people to book a service like an injection or a prescribing event if somebody needed to get a minor ailment kind of sorted out. So that was happening very quickly. And it was all through an app that had integrated scheduling, had integrated the patient file. So you
Yeah.
knew, so it was smart and informed, and it created information that you could continue to use to provide better care. So dentistry is certainly, I think, well situated to take advantage of something like that. And our plan, our next 12 months is going to be focused on kind of operational excellence and getting it to scale. But the second phase, well, the next 12 months after that, is can we create a digital engagement platform very similar or something similar to bring together an kind of an ongoing support beyond the chair or beyond the clinic in terms of that experience. I think dentistry has so much to offer as it relates to primary care or the services that are undervalued in my view, or sometimes understood. So we're going to build something that will allow us to connect the information that we have, allow us to create and put I think the right information in the hands of patients so they can make better decisions. If you marry that up with what's actually going on with digital imaging and the connection between digital imaging and also X-rays and AI, I think this is such a powerful time in dentistry as it relates to the ability to diagnose in a more efficient manner, but also and help clinicians do that, and then also put that information in the hands of patients to give them more informed options and help them with treatment acceptance. So that's what we plan to do, and we'll work with lots of partners. A lot of disinformation exists. It's just getting it into a format that makes it easy for people to understand, and I think that's what's exciting me. And I think that can create more growth and can create a real differentiation as it relates to our 123 dentist network.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you talk about AI and the X-rays, it's one of the things that I think at least used to be overlooked, but to me is the most important element is you create this additional bond of trust between the clinician and the patient. And as a patient, I can actually understand what I'm looking at, which can help me make more of an informed decision. Even if the doctor doesn't need it, he sees it, she's been trained, like they know, but as a patient sitting there, it helps instill an extra level of confidence in kind of taking control of my own oral health and making sure that I'm making the right decisions.
It's such a, there's a bit of an imbalance. Obviously, dentistry is a very sophisticated profession, and there's lots of knowledge that goes into it. But when you bring it to a visual representation and people can see it, I think yeah, I've been blown away. I've been to a lot of education sessions in the first 6 months already. I've seen how it's been used in many of our clinics to a high degree of success. And if we can create something at scale like this, I think that it will really, I think, continue to help elevate dentistry, and take its place.
Let's talk about the Canadian DSO market a little bit. When you're focusing on growth, is your growth predominantly through acquisitions and partnerships with new providers? Are you also looking to open up new practices or go a de novo approach? Like, how do you think about those two, and when would you do either one?
So, Canada's DSO market, or Canada's DSO or dentistry sector, is actually only 10% consolidated, or a little bit less than 10%. So there's still tons of opportunity in Canada, and it has a very favorable reimbursement regime too. So there's a couple of very positive things. That Canada's, I think, one of the best dentistry or dental sectors in the world. Um, so we see growth coming from very much two growth levers. One, same office growth. You need to continue to have outsized performance on the clinics that you have and delivering great care and making sure that the clinics are as productive possible. So that's still very important to us, to make sure that that same office growth continues and performs. But we see a lot of growth also in acquisitions. So being that it's so unconsolidated, there's only two major DSOs. We're one of those two. We're one of the fastest growing DSOs, certainly in the last couple of years. And we see that as a huge lever for us to continue to acquire. We have a very strong pipeline. There's lots of folks that are interested in transitioning into a DSO environment. So many of them are choosing us, and we're happy about that. So we feel very confident that we have a nice pipeline, and we're going to keep moving in that regard. We have a small number of de novos, but because there's so many opportunities to acquire good locations, that it is we are capable of doing them. We are looking at doing them. I would say in the future, we would look at if there is certain areas or gaps where we don't necessarily have an option to acquire, but yet we still like that geography. We would look at a DSO, and I would say that's probably a little more in the 2 to 3 year range, even though we've got, call it 5 or 6 at the moment we're doing, but that may become a bigger lever at that point. It'll be really a question of, is there something we can acquire? Do we like the location? Or should we look to do a de novo? And by that time, we'll also, have been another 24 months on our journey around operational excellence. So that also helps you have the additional confidence when you open up a brand new location.
I've heard you describe your time leading in pharmacy as a fantastic journey of constant learning and growth, which tells me that you are the type of person that is big on a culture of continuous learning, not only for the folks that are in your organization, but for yourself as well. When you reflect on the experience that you had at Shoppers, what are some of the leadership lessons that really have shaped you as an executive and as a strategist?
Mm. Uh, I've had so many interesting experiences at Shoppers Drug Mart and Loblaws. And in terms of challenges, so market changes overnight that were significant, where we had to retool the business. We had to. It was Shoppers with a franchise system too, so it was very similar to minority partners from a dentistry point of view. So you need to convince people and keep everybody moving in the same direction. So I had many opportunities to practice certain things over that period of time. I was also surrounded by really lots of different leaders, and I'm somebody that likes to learn through observation from other people's styles, and then get in and practice and take hopefully take the great things, and then also have my own kind of flair to it. But the big things that have been important to me, and I think that are obviously important to be successful in business or in every organization, is obviously to have an opportunity. That you need to listen. You need to listen to people. Yeah, you need to listen to your team. You need to listen to your frontline colleagues. You need to listen to see what's going on in the market. So that's one. You need some resilience and perseverance on concepts. We were early on a couple of different initiatives when I was at Shoppers, ahead of the market, and we were able to sustain it, even though over time, if things go on a little bit too long, you start to get some naysayers. So keeping some resilience and persistence as it relates to that is really important. And then finally, is you need to bring a coalition. So you need to be able to create a coalition of folks that really believe in what you're trying to achieve, um, And obviously they need to have their own kind of flair in it too, and their own points of view. But you need to bring everybody along, because it's not a game that can be won by one person. It's really a team approach. So those are some of the things that I've learned, but not just learned by reading it, learn by seeing it and actually seeing what actually happens, and learn by practicing it and making mistakes, and adjusting my approach. So what I found here at 123 Dentists is a culture that is very similar in terms of its thirst for knowledge. People are excited to be able to find the best way to do something. We've seen a lot of success, so that also breeds a good culture of wanting to continue to win. So there's a lot of things here that I think that I'll be able to apply from my previous experience, and it's been off to a good start. So I'm pretty happy with how things have been going, and we've been getting some good feedback. But those are the areas that I've focused in on, certainly in the beginning.
Yeah, at the top of the conversation, you mentioned culture when we were talking about the gala, and then you've just mentioned it again in regards to kind of a culture of continuous learning and wanting to win and wanting to go out and be successful. What is, from your perspective, and culture is one of my favorite topics of all time, but from your perspective, what is culture and why does it matter?
So culture is how the organization defines itself in what it does, how it does it, and how it treats colleagues, patients, and the teams in the clinics. And for me, here it is a culture of caring. So first and foremost, we're delivering care, so people all through the organization are attached to that and believe that the things that they need to do need to make it better for patients. We need to make it better for clinicians, and that's certainly a focus. So caring is incredibly important. There's definitely a culture of operational excellence, although we're still maybe in the earlier phases of what that looks at a scaled level. But a lot of the folks that were drawn to this organization are very good operators, and good at doing what they do within individual clinics. So now for us, that is making sure that we're taking it at the next level from an excellence point of view. And then finally, I think the other element is really around focusing in on that continuous learning. And you're not always going to get it right, and we need to be honest with ourselves. So create a trusting and honest environment where you can challenge ideas. We can use data to validate that, and then quickly move on to the next iteration of this initiative. So those are the elements I think that make up this culture. It's a very friendly, it's and group, and has a tagline in the beginning of, "We'll make you smile." And the whole idea here is encapsulating health, through one smile at a time, in terms of how we're improving health for Canadians. It it matters. It matters because it allows you to go through tougher periods when you have a strong culture and people understand where you're going. If you don't have that, it makes it much more difficult to go through more challenging times, or to rally folks to your primary purpose.
And how do you manage the culture at scale? It's one of the things that I just imagine would be challenging in a service organization when you grow by acquisition. Every time there's an acquisition, and us as a technology company, we've done 5 of them, and every single one is a new blend of cultures that creates this whole new set of challenges where you have to kind of work through helping the new additions understand exactly what the culture is all about and why it's important. When you think about the rapid growth that you're going through, how do you protect that culture?
I think the way to protect it is to ensure that you exemplify, you demonstrate that culture in the way you interact with people. So that's why I've been out to 100 clinics in my first six
Right.
months.
That's a good way to protect it. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. It's because then you see people and you get a chance to explain the why, and you get explain a chance to introduce yourself and try to create an environment where people can trust you and they see you and they know who you are. I can be I'm a very informal person. I'm from a small town or city in New Brunswick, very small province, less than about 800,000 people. So, so it was always important for me to be connected in that way and be out amongst our teams to really show them that I'm a real person. I care about what's going on. I can tell you the story. I'm looking for your story, and how do we grow this together? So it's by doing this number of visits, it was also demonstrating to my team that this is how I will lead. I will go out with them, and we will tell our story, and we'll help try to make sure that everybody is through it. Is on board as it relates to the culture. There's a bunch of other things we've been doing, town halls and lots more communication. But I found even in my time at Shoppers, at some years, the last couple of years, I was doing anywhere from 30 to 50 town halls a year, individual for 2 hours. All our franchisees could ask whatever question they want. It was no agenda, just addressing positive and areas of opportunity for us to change, and that also helps cement the fact of approachability, caring, and trust. And we didn't, always get to the same points of view,
Sure. Yeah. Right.
but at least people understand where you're going.
Yeah. So I would imagine that one of kind of your core values based off of what I'm hearing is transparency. I mean, it sounds like you're out there frequently in all the roles that you've had, just being open with what's going on. I think a lot of businesses have a challenge with that, and sometimes depending on what corporate initiatives are, there can be some friction between what is communicated to the field and what needs to be just the focus internally with the support organization. How do you think about transparency? I know you've mentioned trust, but what's your approach there?
hmm I think that when you're working in an organization that supports clinics, so the platform to the clinic interaction, um, you need to align on the principles. We're doing this to allow you to deliver better care, or we're here to support you with education. So explain the why. And I think if you're aligned on the why and your purpose in terms of delivering that care, people have a much better chance of understanding changes that you put into place, and then you need to communicate those changes. And you need to understand how they're not just deploy them, but understand how they're being used within the clinics and listen. So that is those are building blocks, I think, to transparency. And when things are not going well, then you need to admit it and you need to make the adjustment. So but I think the biggest part is frequency, like trying to get out there as much as possible, trying to them hear for people to hear your voice, for people to also know that even when you have difficult questions, you address them and you try to find common ground. And it's certainly great right now because we're performing very, very well. So, but it's also creating an environment for you when maybe there's more points of contention, or there's things that you need to address, that people will know enough about who you are and how you deal with things to make sure that they know that you may not get the same solution or the same answer, or sorry, the same solution to the problem, but at least people understand where you're going and why you're going there.
Yeah. When you think about hiring these days, what is more challenging? Is it harder to hire dentists or hygiene? Or is it about the same at this point?
It's a little bit harder on hygiene in certain areas. So, but in urban environments, we're doing. It seems to be better on dentists at the moment. And but we are seeing some success on hygiene too. So things have started to, I think, cool down a bit and resolve itself a little bit. Obviously coming out of the pandemic, there was more challenges with healthcare providers and people leaving, and from a profession point of view. But so we're seeing success with dentists and associate dentists, except for rural areas, more challenging. And hygiene, we are seeing some success in most urban areas, and obviously some similar challenges in rural areas. But I think we're also very much focused and happy that we're seeing good retention too. So, there's one thing is to recruit people, but trying to keep people that you have. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a little bit about some of the headwinds that are out there, and obviously, you guys are having really fantastic growth, same store growth. Sounds like things are going really, really well. What are some of the things that you're bullish on about dentistry and the space in general that leads you to feel confident in continued growth over time?
Well, I think that while we're having a really good momentum at the moment, and I think this will continue because there's aging population. There's a good public backstop to the dental program in Canada for folks that they used to have kind of mixed coverage or very spotty coverage. So I think those fundamentals are very good for Canada. The area that I see long-term growth is the ability to use this imaging with AI type of interventions to really kind of get to a broader understanding of the diagnosis. And I think there's a lot more options where patients will be presented with, we could do these interventions this year, next year. So there'll be a more structured treatment plan or oral health plan over maybe 2 or 3 years, backstopped by pretty sophisticated imaging and stronger patient engagement around the treatment options. I see that we're very much in the early innings of that, so that should actually drive continued growth over time, because we're going to find things that you didn't see before, and maybe you didn't see them, and time goes by, people don't come in, they get into worse problems, and then you end up with more serious interventions. But maybe there'll be a bit more opportunity to do some of these things early and help preserve people's oral health. So I think that'll drive volume. I think that'll drive opportunities for better care.
Where do you go to learn? We've talked about being lifelong learning. Are you a reader? Do you listen to podcasts, read publications, mentorship, or connections with colleagues? Kind of what's your typical approach?
Um, I do listen to podcasts that are either sector specific or just general the economy or politics or where things are going. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now from a
Mhm.
geopolitical point of view.
There is the
Uh,
truth.
so that is the truth. Um, so, but also from a business point of view, I tend to learn from leaders in the sector or leaders in adjacent sectors. So, what business challenges are they facing, and what can I learn that would be applicable to here, to 123 dentists. So part of it's through reading, part of it's through just networks, and built up a network of folks where we can chat about different decisions that need to be made. The private equity firms that I'm part of to have a nice network of folks that are dealing with similar business opportunities or challenges, so you can learn there. And then the biggest part of learning in the last year, and this won't stop, is learning from clinicians on the front lines, is going out, test, because you can easily see something one week and then test that concept across two or three other clinics in another jurisdiction to validate it. And these are more either business oriented or clinical type of interventions. So those are some of the areas that I like to kind of get recharged on and try to understand how to be better at what I'm doing.
Yeah. I just had one of our folks in marketing gift me a book for Christmas, and it was called I believe it's The End of the World is Just the Beginning by a gentleman named Peter Zehan. And it's all about the end of globalism. And it's a very, very, I started last night and I was all of a sudden 3 hours in. And I was like, I got to put this down and go to bed. But it was very fascinating. Written in 2022, and the events that have taken place over the past 3 years since he wrote it even add kind of more context to the conversation. So it's a very very interesting read. If you want to take a
I'll
look.
have to, I'll have to pick that one up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna spend some time off at Christmas time, so I'll pick it up.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Hey, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Last question for you. What are you most excited about for 2026?
I'm most excited about being past the first 6 months and then putting our strategy in place and resetting a few things. And then fostering that growth. So that's getting out of that mode where you're still kind of trying to uh, reset that strategy. There's not big strategy changes, but there's a few that are meaningful. So I'm looking forward to doing that and then getting into a bit more of the operating role or execution side of things. So that will be I think it'll be an exciting thing for me. And then continuing to work with my team is a really good team here. Like I really enjoy coming in every day. Yeah, they're smart people. They're fun. They care. And I've seen the same thing in our clinics. Really, just folks that really enjoy dentistry, really enjoy providing care, and I get a big charge out of that, and I'm looking forward to that in 2026.
Well, we are excited to keep watching you. We expect big things for 123 Dentists. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate the talk and the time with you.
Absolutely.
The Dental Economist Show is brought to you by Planet DDS, home of Dental OS. To find out more about how cloud-based dental software by Planet DDS helps unleash dentists and their staff to focus on patient care, visit www.planetdds.com. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes by following wherever you listen to podcasts. And thank you for listening.